So this brief overview is on globalization and the sociology of science and technology. The reason they're done together is because they're all inextricably woven together. So globalization occurs with the exchange of goods and services, along with the exchange of social pressure and social ideas. Wallerstein, back in the 1940s, came up with what he called the world system theory, in which there are core countries like the United States, semi-peripheral like Brazil, and peripheral countries such as Mexico and other smaller economic countries that really have the least skin in the game, but provide natural resources for both the semi-peripheral and core states. There's more about this in some of the videos if you want to watch those. Needless to say, world order is evolving and it's very complex. Two of the things that led to the explosion of globalization included the Columbian Exchange, which was when Columbus sailed across the ocean and began the process of exchange of ideas and goods. There were some people that won and some people that lost. The other event was Industrial Revolution, which included the exchange not only of resources, but the exchange of ideas. And we went from traditional ways to more scientific and technologically based ways. Two key theories of globalization include modernization theory by Rostow, in which countries go through four stages: traditional, takeoff stage, the drive to technology, and high mass consumption stages. Some countries can be evaluated in terms of how modern they are by what stage they're at. Needless to say, the United States is at the high mass consumption, whereas a country like Uganda might be at the traditional stage. The other key theory is called dependency theory, and it's based on the unequal distribution of goods around the world. It suggests that countries that are dependent now will always be dependent unless they undergo some rapid and pervasive change. There are different types of globalization, including financial globalization. World's financial systems have become inextricably and intimately connected. And this is primarily because of the use of technology. Stock market trades in New York Stock Exchange can affect Tokyo and Hong Kong in seconds. And the wave continues in European markets and back to American markets. A few years ago, when the country of Greece was talking about declaring bankruptcy, it sent major shock waves, even though Greece is not necessarily the most advanced financially system country in the European Union. It still made big waves. There's economic globalization. In the past, most corporations were linked or identified with a country, but today corporations are now what is called transnational. They cut across boundaries. Companies move their production and capital to any market that will benefit the company. So the reason that Volkswagen moved from the United States to Mexico and why Japan moved some of their corporations or factories to the United States, because it's to their financial advantage. The increased global wealth means increases in standard of living around the world. Economic globalization to increase differences between the haves and the have-nots, and leads to a concentration of more and more corporate power. There's technological globalization. The technological revolution has meant that the global village has expanded to everyone in every corner of the globe with travel, communication, and computer technology, mobile phones, and other communication technologies, and there's lots of them. Include some of the technologies that have increased globalization include Facebook, Skype, Twitter, Wikispaces, the ability to have phones even in remote areas, Microsoft, WebQuest, podcasts, you name it, free universities, it's all out there. Much of it's free or paid by advertising. The use of technology also includes emails. You can communicate with people in other countries, within businesses, pen pals. Technology can be used with people across the lifespan in organizations, and now with the COVID outbreak, between teachers and students and peers. There's political globalization. As countries become more economically and technologically interdependent, there's pressure to adopt uniform policies. And a good example of that is the North America Free Trade Agreement, which was a free trade agreement that President Trump canceled between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. It's a way of replacing nationalism, protectionism with free trade within regions. But we'll see if that ever reemerges. The Trump administration proposed something very similar, but it's just not called NAFTA. There's cultural globalization, the homogenization of world cultures at the expense of distinctly different local cultures is alarming to some people. The loss of world's cultural diversity replaced by primarily Americanized world cultures. It's nothing to be in a remote country or even in Europe and see things there that you normally see here, like McDonald's or Burger King. And then there's sociological globalization, the idea that the single world society has evolved, replacing distinct national societies that previously existed. So the scale has changed dramatically. Ecological globalization, the planet being treated as a single ecosystem rather than a collection of separate systems. So what happens in the Amazon rainforest affects people all over the world. Examples include ozone depletion, global warming. These impacts are not just national, don't affect just nations, but they affect the entire planet. There are concerns about globalization, including the loss of the uniqueness of cultures, the short-term gains over positive long-term consequences, corporate profits before workers' rights, the loss of indigenous cultures replaced by homogeneity, the loss of jobs because of economic globalization, and of course, environmental concerns over the demands put on the Earth's resources, including population. Sociology is science and technology. Both science and technology have become important institutions in Western culture, and there are many examples. Both science and technology are changing the way society functions and the structures within society, and they're inextricably connected to globalization. So that's just a quick overview of this chapter.